Hey everyone, I'm John and welcome to a new video in the Project Icarus series. So today I'm just going over the parts that I've chosen for Project Icarus and I'll run through them with you. So for the case, this is where I like to start with my computer builds. I've chosen an NZXT Phantom 530 in white. Now I do know that this case is not yet released. It is coming in September, but this is the case that I'll be pre-ordering and that all the parts will be going inside. So I chose this because it's a mid-tower case, it's big enough to fit an ATX board in, which is nice. Better for, more expandability, different components, graphics cards, etc. It has a huge window on the side, which I think makes it look awesome, and I'll show you the photo in a moment. There is plenty of room for expansion, so if you need to add an extra hard drive, etc., there's plenty of bays for that. And there's good cable management with grommets and plenty of room behind the motherboard tray. So there you go, there's a photo. I like the angular design, the black and white sort of stormtrooper look. There's that huge window on the side so you can see your processor and your graphics card and your motherboard. So that's definitely going to be one of the key components. Next up is the power supply, and I've chosen an EVGA Nex 650. It's important not to skimp out on your power supply because if you do, it could damage other components on your motherboard. So the reasons I chose this is because it's 650 watts, plenty of power to supply to my graphics card, etc. It's got an 80 plus gold certificate for efficiency. You'd want to look for a power supply that has that efficiency rating because it's better. And this specific power supply is fully modular, which means the cables that are included are already attached, which means that if you don't need a certain cable, you don't have to plug it in, and it doesn't add additional clutter. And all the cables are sleeved in black, and the PCIe cables are sleeved in red, so that looks really sweet, and it's going to look really cool in the system. And there you go, there's a photo. It does have a handle on it, which is a bit weird for a power supply, but it does make it a lot easier picking the power supply up, putting it in and taking it out, things like that. So not such a bad idea. So next for the motherboard, I've gone with one of Asus's Z87 Pro. This is one of Asus's mainstream flagship motherboards. These are the ones that they're aiming to sell the most of, and they've got plenty of features. In this specific Pro motherboard, you do get PCIe 3.0, which is what I'll require for my graphics card. It does have the Haswell socket LG 1150, 1150 referring to the number of pins. It does have the Z87 chipset, as the name implies. It has onboard Bluetooth 4.0, which is going to be good because I'll be using my wireless trackpad from Apple. It has SATA 3 6 gigabit per second, which is what is needed for an SSD to get the maximum speeds. And it has onboard wireless 802.11n, which means you don't have to have an additional expansion card taking up one of your PCIe bays in your system, and that'll cost extra and stuff like that, so it's nice just to have it on board. And I really like the gold colour scheme. There's a photo. It's got gold heat sinks over your MOSFETs and over your chipset, and some of the lanes are gold, and it looks awesome. So moving on to the processor, now things are getting serious. I went with an Intel Core i7 4770K. Really nice CPU. It's quad core, great for video editing, and it does have hyper-threading, which means Windows will recognize it as an 8-core CPU, so you have 4 cores, 2 threads per core, means you have 8 threads. So hyper-threading, good for video editing. It has an unlocked multiplier, that's what the K stands for on the end of the name, and that means you can do some overclocking, so add some more voltage in there and turn up the frequency, get some more speed out of your CPU. And it's the top of the range of the Core series sort of consumer models, not the Extreme obviously because they're like £900, but this is the top of the consumer range of Intel's Core series. So the RAM, I went with some fairly recent RAM. It's Corsair Vengeance Pro, and I went with the silver kit because I think it looks nice. It's the 1866 megahertz model. You can get them in 1600 megahertz. I think you can even get them all the way up to 3 gigahertz. I know it's insane for RAM, but obviously you'd pay extra for that. 16 gigabyte kit, which is 2 by 8 gigabyte DIMMs. which is going to be good for expandability because my motherboard can take up to 32 gigabytes, and with only taking up 2 of the DIMM sockets on the motherboard, I could add another kit just like this and have 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is crazy. And I like the heatsink, it looks good and it's practical, keeping the RAM cool. I think you can overclock the RAM a bit as well, so that'll also aid there. Moving on to the graphics card, the key component for gaming, and I did go with an EVGA NVIDIA GeForce GTX 760, one of the new 700 series graphics cards, and it's really nice. This specific one from EVGA has the ACX cooler, keeping the card cooler all together. It is SLI capable, up to 3-way SLI, so SLI, if you don't know, is just adding another graphics card and then connecting them together to get even more performance. It is superclocked, so you have a higher base frequency, and it has 1152 CUDA cores, which is going to aid with those Adobe software, things like Photoshop, Premiere, After Effects, things like that. And I found that it has a good frames per second to value ratio. So what I mean by that is you'll be looking at graphics card and then you'll get to a point where you can pay, well, here's a good example. This graphics card costs £220, something like that, and then you could go all the way up to the top of the range and you can go for a GTX Titan. Now that costs like £800, so you could add another £600, 4 times the amount you spend, but you might only get 20% performance increase. Is it really necessary to spend that much more to get such a little amount back performance wise for the money that you've just put in? So I found that this is a good card. You get good frames per second in games to what you pay. For my boot drive, I did obviously go with an SSD just to speed things up, and I went with a nice reliable Kingston HyperX 3K. It was the 120GB model, and these Kingston HyperX 3Ks have really good read-write speeds. You can copy files, open applications, turn it on, shut it down, it'll be insanely fast. And 120 gigs is plenty for me, for the OS and some frequently used apps or games. For my storage drive, obviously because that SSD isn't going to be big enough for all the videos and photos that I have, I've got a Western Digital Caviar Blue 500GB. This is just something I was given for free off a family member, and it's great. It's 7200 RPM, it's 500 gigs. It's from Western Digital, so you've got good reliability there. And like I said, 500 gigs will be plenty for my photos and videos. So for the operating system, this is where I haven't quite yet decided, because I could go with Windows 7 Home Premium or Professional, or I could go with Windows 8. So I have downloaded Windows 8.1 Developer Preview, so I can check out Windows 8 to see if I like it. If not, I will be going with Windows 7. And something else, here we go, this will surprise you. macOS 10.9 Mavericks. Now if you don't know about putting macOS onto PC components, it's called Hackintoshing. You might want to Google it or look it up on YouTube, and it is possible, but you do have to have the right hardware, and you do have to have software from some guy called Tony Mac x86, I think that's his website. And it does allow you to run macOS as a full operating system on PC components. Now there are a few restrictions. First of all, Mountain Lion isn't compatible with the Haswell CPUs, which is what I've chosen. Hopefully Mavericks will be, but we do have to wait for the Hackintoshers to get their hands on it and to create the software to allow me to do so. So it's in italics at the moment because I mightn't have the right hardware, or the software mightn't be there, it mightn't be possible in the end. I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that it will be, so I can dual boot between Windows and macOS. That would be really good for me, because I love macOS. I'll still have my MacBook, but it would be good to have both operating systems. So there you go, macOS might become a possibility. So what did I pay for all these parts? Well, excluding the operating system because I haven't chosen yet between Windows 7 and Windows 8, the hard drive because it was free, and the case because it hasn't yet been released, I paid £928.62. And that's not too bad. I got all the parts for the cheapest prices that I could find. I used a website called PC Part Picker, And if you want a complete similar system, I've already built one on PC Podfigure, so if you want to go out, you can see the cheapest prices and you could order them all if you wanted to and build something that's similar to what I've got at the moment. But until I've got the cases released, it's not going to be exactly the same. So I do have a few accessories that I want to get, which I haven't yet bought. I'll hopefully get them in the next month or so. And for my CPU cooler, I'd like to get a Corsair H100i, just because it keeps the CPU cool if you've overclocked it, which I am planning on doing, because obviously the Intel cooler isn't good enough for that. And the benefits to water cooling overall is it's quieter, and there's a photo you can see. It looks really awesome, you know, just putting that in your case, and the Corsair logo lights up and all sorts. So that's why I'd like to go along that line. For the fans, just additional fans for the H100i, 2 Noctua NF-F12s. If you don't know about Noctua fans, really good. They're really quiet and they're very efficient. These specific ones are optimized for static pressure, and there you go, there's a photo. Bit weird looking, I know they're brown, but they are the best fans on the market, period. So moving on to the last thing, just some lighting strips from BitFenix. They are the Alchemy LEDs in white, and it lights up the inside of your case, makes it look really cool. And these are brighter than cold cathodes, you know, because they're LEDs. There you go, there's a photo. And what you do, you'd hide the LED strips so that you can't actually see them, but you can see the light, and it lights up, you know, your graphics card and stuff like that. So there you go, that's the parts that I've chosen and parts that I'm planning on buying for Project Icarus. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Tell me if you think I should go with Windows 7 or Windows 8. If you change anything, let me know about that as well. And all the links and stuff will be in the description. There's an annotation on screen now if you want to go check out the introduction video if you don't know what Project Icarus is about already. So I do have another few videos coming up in the future, just some unboxings so you can see some of the parts that I've actually got. So yeah, that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching this. Be sure to subscribe and like this video if you appreciate it. Anyway, I'll catch you later.